And we are live. Hi, Mike Blizzard here, founder of Speak Like a Pro Online, sharing ideas, tools, and techniques to help you grow your business, make better videos, and speak with more confidence online. And welcome to this week's edition of Ask Mike. If this is your first time, thank you for being here or listening to the recording. I appreciate that. And just to kind of give you an idea, the reason for Ask Mike is that they kind of set along my other videos that I record and upload to YouTube and the various platforms, and except these are live and they're designed to give us a space to run through any questions you might have. So sometimes people post questions on my various social media platforms, whether that's Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, or they email me or tweet or whatever it is, and then on a Wednesday or Thursday, it's Thursday this week, I just run through those questions. And sometimes, depending on the question, if it's like several people have asked the same thing, then we kind of spend the majority or all of that Ask Mike session on that particular question. And so this week, as it's kind of become more apparent and more visible to us, people that I've been talking with, and I'm mentioning this because it's clients, various companies, people in companies that I've been working with this week, have been mentioning this thing called Article 13. And again, as I say, because it's becoming visible to us now as well, a bit like GDPR was last year. And so in this edition of Ask Mike, I just want to run through kind of my understanding, at least at this point, of what Article 13 is, whether it's a good or a bad thing, whether I think it's a good or a bad thing, and how it might affect you and the content that you produce and upload, not just to YouTube, but all the different platforms online. It's applicable to all of them, whether you tweet or Facebook or LinkedIn or Snapchat or whatever you do. Article 13 covers everything. It's just that I'm here on YouTube Live today talking about it. And so kind of just to give you my view of that, my picture of that, and just to say this is my own view. I'm not a lawyer. This is not a legal interpretation of it, and that's not a legal kind of thing that I'm putting in the front of my video. I'm just being really upfront and honest with you. This is just where I am understanding it at the moment. And if you want me to delve deeper and understanding more, which I'm going to do anyway, but if you want me to make another video or more kind of planned video that's going to help walk you through what Article 13 will potentially mean for your business and how you can navigate that, just so that you stay on the right side of it, then just let me know. Leave a comment in a box below this video. So whether you're on YouTube or you're watching this on another platform, or even on my website or on my newsletter, just leave a comment below or hit reply if you've got this via an email, if you're on my newsletter list, and let me know, Mike, can you make that video on Article 13? And I gladly will. So I'll get some more information together as I learn more about it, and I will gladly make that more detailed video. So in a nutshell, where I am at the moment, what I'm understanding about Article 13, it's part of something called the Copyright Directive, which was a new law that was passed by the EU last week, on Tuesday last week, and it really is kind of another step towards starting to look at how we can manage the internet. And the way I look at the internet, it was started, was it 30 years ago now, a long time ago now, and it's become and by the way, I think the internet ranks probably quite well alongside the wheel as one of the greatest inventions I think that humankind have come up with. But the thing is, the internet, it's become a bit like the Wild West in that I think people that the kind of early adopters, how it was first formulated, had no concept of what it could have become today. And I think there are many people on the internet that have good intentions, the best intentions, and add value, and we share information, and we gain knowledge, and this goes back to the kind of founding fathers of the internet. This was kind of their vision. But equally, this incredible tool and platform that we have, or platforms that we have, can of course be used for other means as well. And so by individuals and also by organizations and countries as well. And so I think as it evolves, various parts of the world have been starting to look at how they can start to manage this and kind of just put almost like a rule book, a game plan, an understanding in place, laws in place to start to regulate and manage so that we all stay on the right side of whatever the right side is with regards to the internet. And so states in the US, certainly California, have passed some laws over the last few years, regarding how people use information if you're in the state of California. The same with Canada, again over the last few years, and in Europe, GDPR was passed last year, and I'm in the UK. We're at the moment still in the European Union, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to remain it. But equally, this, whether we leave or whether we stay, this GDPR will still apply to us. And just to kind of recap, GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, it was just a way to start to formulate and set some guidelines, some laws in place so that we as business owners, whether you're a sole trader, whether you are part of a larger organization, have some directive of how you store and use information, what it is used for, if it's actually something that is required or if it isn't, and when you delete it and how you manage it, how you store it, how the security, etc., etc. And I think it's, there was some scare stories in the lead up to GDPR, as we always are in all walks of life. But I think looking back, now we have had GDPR for a good few months now. I made a video before it saying I think it will turn out to be a really, really good thing because it'll just reset how we use information. Of course, there will still be people and organizations and maybe even governments that don't abide by that, but equally, we, and it's the royal we, the European we, have set some laws in place, and as I say, other countries and areas of the world have started to do this well, and I think that's all a good thing. So Article 13, it's part of something called the Copyright Directive, which as I say, was passed into law by the European Union last week, on Tuesday last week, and that essentially is looking at things like copyright of information and data that's put on basically for public use on the internet. So as I say, it applies to all the platforms that we might use to promote our business, from the Snapchats to Twitter to LinkedIn to here, YouTube, all the rest of it. And there's a rollout period when it's expected to be enforced by the individual governments. Certainly within the EU, there are 27, and some countries the rollout is 2 years, some countries it's 1 year, and so you need to check what that is for you. And what Article 13 really kind of stipulates, and which is why it can have an effect on you and how you promote your business and how you make videos and how you do even things like graphics with motivational quotes on. Some people do that to promote their business and keep the conversation going, the communication going with their, with the database or the client base. What Article 13 is looking at, as I say, is who owns the copyright. And what it kind of does is that it turns it on the head, rather than, or it increases it. It's not only your responsibility to make sure that you only use data that you either own the copyright or that you bought a license to use the copyright, for example, pictures or video. That's already in place. That's already there. It's been there for forever. But equally with Article 13, now it actually puts the onus on the platform as well. So, for example, if you upload a picture to Facebook, or if you upload a video with some third-party content on, for example, you show a clip of a movie on YouTube as part of your video, it's not only your responsibility to make sure you have the permission and you paid your license fees and all that stuff to work, to to have that copyright, but equally the platform also has a responsibility to make sure that you do as well. And if there is an infringement of copyright, not only can you or that business can be sued, but also the platform as well. So it means that people that use, for example, we're on YouTube now, use third-party content without permission, not only can they be sued, but also YouTube as well. And we see movie clips. So you're talking about the big movie studios, people like Warner Brothers, how big are they? Disney potentially suing YouTube, and also the individual people on YouTube that are sharing this content. So from a platform's point of view, that's a little bit scary, because now they have to start taking responsibility for what their users actually upload onto their platforms. So not only are you responsible for what you share, but equally the owners of the platform, so the YouTubes, the Facebooks, and all the rest of it, are also responsible and legally responsible as well. And that's Article 13. So at the moment, I think we've probably not seen any difference, but I think going forward, the fear that I've kind of seen on the internet is that the internet will be squeezed, in that for example, Facebook, to avoid leaving themselves legally open to being sued, will need to be a lot more proactive in managing what content is uploaded, and just making sure that each individual person that uploads content or company owns that copyright, and equally with Facebook and, as I say, all the other platforms as well. And so the platforms have kind of three options that I've kind of come across so far. Number one is that they can prepay all the various content providers for use of their content on their platform. So they can prepay probably what would be an astronomical amount of money to a film studio, for example, or to a for example, photographic agency or library. They can pay them astronomical amounts of money, just kind of presupposing that some of that content will be used on that platform. But I can't actually see any YouTubes or Facebooks or any other platform wanting to do this, because it will cost them a lot of money, and even though they've got it, it's their responsibility to manage it, but is it their responsibility to pay for the copyright on behalf of you and me that might actually use it without copyright, without the agreement? So that's the first option. As I say, I don't think it's actually going to happen where the individual social media platforms would pay the various providers of content for copyright in advance of anybody that might infringe it. It just wouldn't make sense, and it would just be financially silly numbers, I think, as well. So the second option, I think there are three real options. The second option is somebody used a term called deep scrub, where it sounds quite painful, but it's where the platforms would a lot more be a lot more stringent or strict in the management of content that's uploaded, or whether they do this automatically with programs, or whether they do this manually with massive teams of people that also look at content as well, just to make sure that the content that is uploaded is actually legal and within the framework that the person uploading it owns the copyright to that as well. So that's kind of that's potentially going to cause a lot of content to be reviewed before, or even taken down from the various platforms. So as I say, the Wild West, the free-for-all, uploading anything days are potentially numbered. And the third option, which I'm just sharing this with you, I just heard it today on somebody's YouTube video, is that potentially the platform just closes down, that the social media, that whichever platform it would be, would just close because it wouldn't be financially viable to be buying, prepaying for copyright on behalf of whoever might infringe it. It's equally potentially not financially viable to pay astronomical fines, potentially, for people, for their users who have infringed it, because remember, both are now responsible for that. And so they might close down. I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think social media, certainly for the foreseeable future that we have, I think is here to stay. It's going to evolve, obviously it does, it's the nature of it, but I don't think it's going to close down because of Article 13, which leaves the second option, the deep scrub. That, by the way, that's not a technical phrase, it's just one I heard. I kind of like it. It sounds really strict and severe, but it's a good phrase. So deep scrub. So it's where when you upload content, it's much more likely to be flagged up, and potentially, if that platform really does adhere to Article 13, requests for you to provide evidence that you own that content. Which kind of sounds slow and laborious, but as I say, this has just happened last Tuesday. There's a rollout period over the next couple of years, or year or 2 years, and so we don't quite know how this is going to roll out, how this is going to evolve, except that it will evolve. Article 13 has been passed. It is now law, and there is a rollout period, but it is already here, so it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go away anywhere. So even companies that are based outside of the EU, because this is an EU directive, so which most of the social media companies are, of course, still have a responsibility for information that's originated in and shared within an EU country, or maybe originates outside of the EU, but is kind of seen and interacted with or viewed within the EU. So this is potentially massive. So I think from where I am today, there are 3 possible steps that we as content owners can take if we want to stay on the kind of right side of this. My view is that, a bit like GDPR, we can make it big and scary and kind of thing, or we can actually just think, actually, this is probably a good thing. This is kind of just bringing some semblance of order to what is potentially the Wild West. I mean, just think of the Wild West. If I live in the UK, but I've got family in the US. If it was still the Wild West, the Wild West it did what it said on the can. It was wild, it was new, it was evolving, it was fresh. But then over the next couple of 100 years, society evolved, and laws and parameters, and that's the America we have today, and the same with, I think, most countries. And so the same with the internet. I think it's evolving. We're setting down some parameters. And so I think Article 13 is a good thing, in that it's going to help us just to be really clear on this kind of free-for-all is actually probably going to lessen and hopefully be no more, in that it will be a place that's managed, and it will be a place that we're not fearful of going to. And I think that's a good thing for business, for content creators, for YouTube content creators as well. So the 3 steps I have, if you're a sole trader, if you make videos, if you upload content to any of the platforms, the Facebook, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, is this, and this is in no particular order. Number 1, own your content. So I think if you want to, I'm just thinking video now, if you want to use B-roll, and B-roll is where, I'm not doing it now because I've got this live stream going on, but sometimes when you shoot a video and you're talking about when you're, for example, walking in the street, and then you've taken some video footage of you walking in the street, maybe cars going by or people walking on the street, and then you edit that into your video, so, and you talk over it, so that's called B-roll. I would just suggest own your content. If you are sharing a model, it's always preferable. It'll position you as an expert if it's your model as well. Equally, if you are going to share somebody else's content, somebody else's model, get the permission, buy whatever license you need to get, or get the written permission, so that you own your content. So when you produce your work, it's your work. So that's the first thing. The second one kind of leads on from that. I'm just mentioning it with the model, is be original. I think if you are potentially positioning yourself as an expert, as a go-to person in your industry, if you're using video or infographics or whatever it is to promote your business and communicate with your audience, be original. I think it's good to do that. I think the more you are comfortable, the more you get the habit of creating your own work, whether that's video, whether that's infographics, whether that's models, whether it's that top tips or how-tos or whatever it would be. The more you get into the habit of doing that, that's what you do, the easier it becomes. You don't, this fountain doesn't go dry. Once you start opening up the potential of what you can share with the world, it's endless. It really is endless. Whereas sometimes people get into the habit of borrowing content or screen grabbing something and just sharing that. And I understand that's easy, but from now on it's not legal anymore, and it's lazy. So you might be positioning yourself as someone who shares somebody else's content, but that is not the same as sharing your content and positioning yourself as an expert. So I think it's to be original. And then the third step is to buy the licenses when needed. So if you are going to use, I'm completely fine. I use other people's content and B-roll and pictures for infographics and all the rest of it. And I'm not trying to say I'm a saint here, but I always buy the license. So just to give you a couple of examples, with the B-roll, I shoot a lot of video B-roll myself using my phone. I'm doing this YouTube live on my iPhone today, but equally when I'm walking around town or the city or in the park or whatever, and I think this location or what's happening here might be useful as part of the narrative, as part of the story of a video I'm going to shoot that week or in a future. Then I'll just get the video camera out, I'll get my smartphone out and just do some filming. And it's my filming, I'm owning it, and that's the point. Equally, pictures I've got on my website or that I use in my newsletter or whatever, you can either take them yourself, which is great because you own the copyright, or if you are going to buy them, I use a company called Shutterstock, and they are I don't know, you call it a photographic agency. They own like thousands or millions, I'm guessing it's probably millions of pictures, and you can download them, and you buy a license, and it just means that you've respected that the person's content, for example, the photographer's content that you've used in your video or on your website or in your newsletter. You've actually paid that content creator, that photographer, their dues. So you paid them some commission that's going to hopefully go towards rewarding them for their good work. And so, as I say, always buy licenses. I use a couple of companies. There's another one, I think it's called Deposit Photos. I'll put links below in the show notes of Shutterstock and also Deposit Photos. And for B-roll, as I say, I shoot my own, but also I sometimes use B-roll as part of my editing suite software, and it's a license I bought, and that company, it's called ScreenFlow for Mac. So again, I'll put links below that so you can check them out and just see if that works for you. So I think in kind of bringing this to a close, Article 13 is something that's needed to happen. I think it's going to wake a lot of people up. It's probably going to wake some of the platforms up. And you know what? I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to be awake. It's good to be awake and alert and alive and paying attention. Be fully present in your life. and in your business. And I think even from a platform's point of view, if they create a platform and it's super mega successful, sometimes they go to sleep and they allow stuff through. It isn't actually, it's not correct on any level. You know, there's been things happening in the world, I'm not going to get into it, but there's been things happening in the world where things have been shared on the internet, and it's just horrendous. You know, that needs to be managed. Yes, it is a free-for-all, it is the Wild West, but actually we as human beings are intelligent and knowledgeable and evolving. Do we need to leave it like that, or do we just need to start looking at, okay, how can we bring this together and put some semblance of order there? And so within the EU, with GDPR last year and also Copyright Directive Article 13 this year, and California and Canada, and there are other places as well, they're just starting to look at how that can happen, and I think that's a good thing. So that's it for this time. If you, as I say, if you want me to make a more kind of structured video, probably with my flip chart and record it and you know, take you through a process here of how, you know, what Article 13 can potentially mean for your business, and equally steps you can take to make sure you're staying on the right side of it and you manage it well, so you're proactive rather than reactive. Let me know, leave a comment in the box below, and I gladly will do that. If you've got a question for a future Ask Mike video, please, again, just put it in the comments box, or just get in touch with me any way you want. So that can be email, it can be message, or, you know, all the different ways. There's tons of ways. Go to my website, there's a comments box there, and you can get in touch that way as well. So whichever way you want to do that, that's cool. And yeah, so if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button and the notification bell and all the 9 yards, all the rest of it, and I'd be super grateful. And yeah, just remember, this channel, it's all about sharing ideas, tools and techniques to help you grow your business, make better videos, and speak with more confidence online. Until next time, I'm wishing you well. Take care.